In a revelation that has startled both domestic and international audiences, South Africa has launched a full-scale investigation into how 17 of its citizens ended up fighting in the war-ravaged Donbas region of eastern Ukraine. President Cyril Ramaphosa's office confirmed that the men, aged between 20 and 39, had contacted South African authorities seeking help to return home. According to official statements, they claimed they were lured to join mercenary forces involved in the Ukraine-Russia war under the pretext of lucrative employment contracts. The case sheds light on a growing, underreported phenomenon: how the world's poorest and most vulnerable are being drawn into great power wars thousands of miles away, often under false promises of opportunity and survival. The presidency's statement triggered alarm across South Africa and the African continent. Presidential spokesperson Vincent Magwenya told reporters that the government had initiated an urgent interdepartmental probe to uncover how these men were recruited, transported, and deployed into a foreign war zone. The Department of International Relations and Cooperation, DIRCO, is now working alongside national intelligence agencies, the National Prosecuting Authority, and Interpol to determine whether the recruits were coerced, deceived, or complicit. We have to understand whether this is part of a broader transnational recruitment network targeting Africans, Magwenya emphasized. If so, this would have grave implications for our citizens' safety abroad. While officials stopped short of confirming which side the men fought for, early evidence suggests they were recruited to fight on behalf of Russia. The Donbas region, where they were reportedly deployed, remains under Moscow's control, and investigators believe the men were lured through fraudulent job offers in logistics and construction, a tactic long associated with Russian recruitment operations across Africa. Indeed, the South African case mirrors a disturbing pattern seen elsewhere on the continent. In recent months, citizens from Kenya, Zambia, and Zimbabwe have found themselves caught in similar traps. Ukraine's military even released a video in September showing a captured Kenyan fighter who claimed he was tricked into fighting for Russia after responding to an online advertisement promising high-paying work. Earlier, Zambia confirmed the death of a young student who was recruited directly from a Russian prison to fight in Ukraine. Western intelligence reports suggest the Kremlin's recruitment efforts have expanded far beyond Africa, targeting vulnerable populations in the Middle East, Southeast Asia, and Latin America. Russia's approach is simple but effective: offer desperate young men false promises of money, employment, and security, only to press them into combat upon arrival. For Moscow, which faces severe manpower shortages after nearly 4 years of attritional warfare, these foreign recruits are a low-cost, expendable resource. One of the most shocking developments came when North Korea reportedly sent troops to fight alongside Russian forces, the first instance of a state-backed deployment in this war. According to South Korean intelligence, several thousand North Korean soldiers have already been dispatched, with hundreds believed to have died in battle. The inclusion of North Korean forces underscores how desperate Moscow has become to sustain its campaign and how the conflict's tentacles now reach far beyond Europe. Against this backdrop, the recruitment of South Africans, citizens of a country historically committed to non-alignment, marks a dangerous expansion of Russia's global network. It also highlights how poverty, unemployment, and disinformation have combined to make young men from the global south targets in wars they neither started nor understand. Ukraine, for its part, has long embraced foreign fighters, but through a different lens. Since the early days of the war, Kiev has openly welcomed international volunteers under its International Legion of Territorial Defense, drawing thousands from Europe, the United States, and Latin America. Many joined out of ideology, solidarity, or prior military experience. More recently, Ukraine has contracted around 2,000 Colombian ex-soldiers to strengthen its forces, though Kyiv insists these are professional soldiers under legal arrangements rather than mercenaries. Ukrainian officials continue to stress that their recruitment practices differ from Russia's, arguing that volunteers serving under military command are distinct from individuals trafficked or deceived into service. However, military analysts caution that the strategic impact of foreign fighters on both sides remains limited. Franz Stefan Gadi, a defense expert at the International Institute for Strategic Studies, IISS, told the BBC that while the number of foreign combatants has increased, their role is largely symbolic. They are useful for propaganda, not for victory, Gadi noted. For Ukraine, manpower shortages are still its biggest problem. For Russia, foreign recruits serve as expendable fillers rather than capable fighters. Jethro Norman of the Danish Institute for International Studies echoed the sentiment, observing that, symbolically, these fighters punch far above their weight, especially in shaping propaganda narratives and recruitment drives. In essence, their value lies not in the battlefield, but in the story each side tells about them, and those stories have proven powerful. In the war's early phase, Ukraine used the image of international volunteers to project unity, a global struggle of democracy against tyranny. Russia, on the other hand, flipped the script, using videos of African and Asian fighters to portray its invasion as an anti-Western global South resistance against NATO. Such narratives have spread rapidly on TikTok, Telegram, and other social media platforms where Russian state-linked influencers glamorize the brotherhood of resistance. In parts of Africa where unemployment is high and access to reliable news limited, these videos have resonated deeply. They transform the war into a story of defiance and make the idea of joining it seem like both adventure and purpose. Analysts say this disinformation ecosystem has become one of Moscow's most effective recruitment tools. Even China's digital space has become part of this influence network. Though Beijing officially denies supporting foreign recruitment for Russia, Chinese social media platforms like Douyin, the Chinese version of TikTok, are filled with slick videos promoting opportunities in Russia. These clips show images of well-equipped soldiers, expensive cars, and promises of financial reward. Western experts argue that while the Chinese state does not directly coordinate such content, it tacitly allows it to circulate to bolster its strategic partner, Russia, and subtly reinforce anti-Western narratives. This fusion of online propaganda and offline exploitation has blurred the line between recruitment and manipulation, turning digital misinformation into a literal weapon of war. Back in Pretoria, the implications are serious. South Africa's government, long proud of its non-aligned diplomatic posture, now faces an uncomfortable reckoning. Opposition parties have already demanded accountability. The Democratic Alliance, DA, has called for a crackdown on human traffickers and recruitment intermediaries, while the Economic Freedom Fighters, EFF, accuse Western media of exaggeration to smear ties with Moscow. Under the Regulation of Foreign Military Assistance Act 1998, South Africans who serve as mercenaries face up to 15 years in prison. The Defense Ministry has confirmed that if the men knowingly enlisted, they will face prosecution. If they were deceived, they will be treated as victims of trafficking. "We must separate victims from violators," said Defense Minister Thandi Modise. "Our first duty is to bring our citizens home safely." As families of the trapped men wait anxiously for word, some hearing from their loved ones for the first time in months, this case has come to represent something larger: how modern wars exploit not only soldiers and civilians, but the desperate and the deceived alike. It is a grim reminder that in today's conflicts, the battlefield has no borders, and neither does human vulnerability.